Hey, what's up, Jamie? Quick demo video for you for your Corran horn. This is all made of steel and copper, and this was made by Solos Hold. I just got through installing this guy. I have been working on this again for the last couple days on and off, probably the last week or so. Doing a little bit of things here, then putting it off to the side, and then coming back to it as I had time. So your button right here, you know, it was broke off and it was just bare steel. So I did paint that red for you, glued it back into place with some CA glue. That shouldn't go anywhere on you. This is pretty tight too, so this stays in place. It should protect it. I installed this with a CFX. So you got the CFX that you wanted. I put CCSabers LED pixels in here. I'm gonna kind of address Clint Morrison as well in this video because he's buying this chassis from me. So I'm going to kind of walk through some of the things I did on this install, right? So I made my own PCB holder for the CCSabers pixels in there, which I typically do anyway. But I wanted to use that LED holder that was already in there and that was made out of copper. So I put that down in there, right? That's what I did there. Now, when you take this guy apart, which I'm not going to do because it is a pain in the butt, you know, you've got this pin right here that holds everything together. So when you pull that out, you've got a little piece of copper that comes out about this far, right? And it holds it's got the holes for your switches that come along the side. You can actually see that right there because that hole's drilled all the way through. And then there's another hole directly in the center of that copper piece that I use for my wires for my my main pixel. I widened those holes for the switches. I just took a drill bit, man. I widened them up a little bit. I didn't want to make things any more difficult than they needed to be. And to get these two switches in here, it's tight. It's a super tight fit to get 4 wires down in there. And you know, another 3 wires for my main pixel. I mean, so I widened the holes as much as I could, and that helped out a lot. Okay, but for I'm not going to take this apart. You should never have to either, Jamie. I put some pictures on my Facebook, you know, when I tagged you and said this was done, showing the inner part here. I kind of took those pictures as I was building it so you could see what it looks like. But there's no need to ever take it off from here. You only access your chassis from the pommel here. So what we want to do is just unscrew this guy. A lot of threads on the back of this, right? So that's all right. Almost there. You know, whatever, that's fine. So that comes off right there. And you'll see your chassis sticking out just a hair. That's on purpose, right? So you'll cup your hand here, go like that a few times. Your chassis will come out about that far. It's a tight fit, and then you can pull the rest out. I did sand this chassis down a little bit. I like to put a finish on them anyway. But you know, with this being steel and it being so far down in there before I had to hit the pins and everything, I just made tight tolerances on the chassis, and then I like to make a snap fit for the board. The drawback with a snap fit chassis or like a snap fit board placement is you've got that little bit of bowing that the chassis will do when you snap your board down. So you'll have to go back and just sand the edges, you know, just sand the edges a little bit and take that bowing out. So that way it still has a nice fit. Now, if I was taking this and shoving it in there and I never had to get to it, I wouldn't have had to sand it, right? It would have been fine. But I wanted it to be able to come back out, obviously. But there's no wiggle in there, right? And it's exactly where it needs to be. So that's what I did there. Here's your chassis, CFX board, easy access to your SD card. I did adhese the board down, so it is a snap fit, but then I went ahead and adhesed it down because it's riding really close to the ID of the handle, and I didn't want it popping up on you. So just knowing my customer, Jamie, right, I was the one to put all of his sound fonts on here for him. So in the future, if he were to ever do it, he'd only need access to the SD card, and that's what he's got here. Your battery cradle. On this chassis, I made the battery cradle about, you know, 0.1 inches smaller than I usually do, which means, you know, 2 things. I had to come in here and I cut some of that spring off, and I'll be giving you these battery terminals with the chassis, Clint. So I came in here and I cut some of these springs off, and then on my positive terminal here, I actually take a pair of pliers and I sandwich it down just a hair. And then I put it in there. It just gives me that much more room where I can snap the battery in and everything is good to go. So those are the two things I did to the battery terminals. Not to insult your install intelligence, but you know, sometimes I take some left field turns when I'm doing my own stuff. So I just kind of wanted to try to explain that to you. And you've got 28 millimeter Smuggler's Outpost Elite speaker right here. All right. And then you've got, of course, this Smuggler's Outpost PCB right here. And then you can see your 14 pin set in there, and that will never come out. And that's what we've got. So we'll throw a battery in, spring side your negative, and I will also put the sticker to the battery to the inside of the chassis. Just like that, so now you can't see the sticker, right? Now you can take this guy and put it in anywhere you want. So we're just gonna take it and slide it right in. It's a snug fit, all right, but it goes. You can push it into about right there. That's about as far as it wants to go, if you can see that. Now the rest of it's gonna get pushed in by this guy right here. There's a diameter change in this pommel cap that I use to push the speaker in because it pushes up against the speaker. It pushes up against the speaker rim, but not the speaker drum. So you don't get any sound distortion. That's what I'm trying to say. It's been a long day. So we've got it in there thus far. We're going to go ahead and screw in the pommel. Again, a lot of threads, but no biggie. Now when you get to the last thread or two, about right there, you're gonna feel it tighten up. So you can tighten it up a little bit more. Now you're engaging all those 14 pins, right? That's what you're doing. Now it's all tight. On this particular Saber, when your switches are facing up, your right hand switch is your activation. And then your left one here is your auxiliary. So I got those 4 Corran horn fonts that you gave me to put on this guy. They're all loaded up. They are the first 4 fonts on your CFX. And they're all set to blue, right? But I'll show you how to change color and change blade styles while the board is on, or the blade is on, but it will revert back to its current setting now when you take the battery out, because you're basically doing a hard reboot to the board. So this extremely tight blade socket, whatever Saber or blade you've got, you're gonna end up doing some sanding. I brought my crappy test blade out that I've sanded over and over again, and I have trouble getting this guy in here. So I'm gonna turn on the blade, or turn on the Saber. That way when I come down on these pins, I'll know when I hit them. They're pretty far down there. There we go. This blade is extremely tight fit, right? So you're gonna have some sanding to do. I just want you to be warned. But activation. Sounds nice and loud. Flash on clash. Tap for blast or deflex. You'll see that better on a full length blade. Hold your auxiliary down for blade lockup. I tried to twist it off. I've been doing so many profis, man. To get to that soundtrack, what you want to do is double tap your activation when your blade is off. And then you can double tap it again to turn it off. Now to get to the next sound font, we'll hold down our auxiliary button.
Sound bank selection.
Until you hear that. We'll just use either button to cycle up or down, and then when you find one you like, hold a button down.
Sound bank selection.
Now, we've got a pretty solid blade here. If we want to change colors when the blade is on, hold down your auxiliary and twist your wrist.
Spectrum.
You'll hear spectrum. Now you can turn the Saber and you can cycle through all the colors that you like, or cycle through all the colors that it has, and then when you find one that you like, tap a button. Now while the battery is in and it remembers that choice, we'll turn it back on, it'll be red. Right? Now with the solid blade color, I also gave you a lot of blade effects. So to change your blade effect, we'll do the same thing. We'll hold the aux and twist our wrist, but then this time keep the button held down.
Spectrum.
Keep holding it.
Blade profile.
Now you hear blade profiles. Now again, you can twist the hilt and you can cycle through different blade effects. Let's find something, right? Let's pick this one. You may not be picking up too well on camera, but it's kind of an unstable. You can see on my jacket. So now when we turn this on, we've got a red unstable blade, right? See it right there. This is mean sounding. So we'll take the blade out. It's going to be an adventure. So I like to act like I twist in a clockwise motion when I'm pushing, when I'm pushing the blade in, and then I also pull in a clockwise motion when I'm pulling the blade out. And the reason I do that, so hold on, it's almost out. The reason I do that is because this piece unscrews right here, but you don't want it to. There's really no need for it to. So instead of accidentally having it unscrew when you're taking the blade out, always go in a clockwise motion because that's tightening this guy up, right? So that's pretty much your Saber. And then how we get to the battery, again, we just kind of unscrew this guy right here. It's gonna take you 5 minutes, don't worry about it. So, almost. All right. You got your speaker right there. We're gonna cup our hand, right? So we don't have the chassis go flying till you get it to about right there. Everything's super snug, but a couple hits, you'll get it far enough to where you can pull the chassis right out. And then we can come in here from the positive side and pull it right out just like that. And then you've got your chassis right there, and I'll just slap this back in for safekeeping. Goes in just like that. So yeah, that is your build. Hope it came out the way you liked. Thank you for your patience. Let me know if you got any questions or if everything looks good to you. I will have this out in the mail to you tomorrow. All right. Thanks, man.